My name is Dr. Rush, and this is Brinson Performance Attribution in Excel. The goal of performance attribution is to identify areas of success and areas in need of improvement. Like all models, Brinson has some assumptions built into the model. First, risk and return are defined as deviation from the benchmark. This means that a portfolio that loses value is still considered successful if it loses less than the benchmark does. It also means that risky investments are no longer risky on a relative basis if our portfolio weights match the weights in the benchmark. We are only evaluating relative performance. If the portfolio does not have a benchmark, a return contribution analysis is more appropriate. Second, the weights of the portfolio and benchmark are assumed to be constant over the measurement period. Ideally, Brinson attribution should have short measurement periods, but short periods also contain a lot of noise. As a practical matter, Brinson is often calculated using longer measurement periods where the weights do change considerably. The time period when weights are measured should be the same for the portfolio and the benchmark. I will be using the beginning of the period in this example. The Brinson model decomposes relative performance into the allocation effect, the selection effect, and the interaction between allocation and selection. Allocation depends on the grouping of assets within the portfolio. Portfolios with multiple asset classes will define allocation as the weight in stocks, bonds, and other asset classes. These would be compared to the blended benchmark defined in the investment policy statement. A single asset class portfolio would use subgroupings rather than asset classes. An all-stock portfolio might use sectors as the allocation group, as we do in this example. The allocation effect is calculated by multiplying the benchmark return by the difference in portfolio and benchmark weight for that grouping of investments. Here I am using an all-equity portfolio with the allocation effect measured using sectors. I start by multiplying the tech sector return from the S&P 500 by the difference in the tech sector portfolio weight and the S&P 500 sector weight. This can also be described as the benchmark sector return multiplied by the active sector weight. The decision to overweight the tech sector during this time period resulted in a sector allocation effect of 15 basis points. We then apply this calculation to the rest of the sectors. The selection effect is calculated by multiplying the portfolio weight by the difference in the portfolio return and the benchmark return for that grouping of investments. We can restate this operation as multiplying the benchmark sector weight by the active sector return. Starting with the tech sector, I calculate the weighted average return of the portfolio assets within the tech sector and subtract the return of the S&P 500 tech sector. Multiplying this difference by the portfolio tech sector weight will produce the selection effect for the tech sector. Our selection of stocks within the tech sector resulted in 9 basis points of relative return. We follow the same methodology for the rest of the sectors. The interaction effect is not directly tied to investment manager decisions, but as a result of the allocation and selection decisions. The interaction effect is calculated as the active sector weight multiplied by the active sector return. Based on this period, the tech sector did not have a meaningful interaction effect. The portfolio attribution effects are calculated by adding each effect across allocation groups. In this example, we can see that the sector allocation contributed negative 14 basis points in relative performance. Our security selection contributed 41 basis points in relative performance, and we had negative 1 basis point from the interaction effect. Our total relative performance was 26 basis points, which is the sum of all three components. If this pattern of relative performance persists, we should stop making allocation decisions and focus exclusively on security selection. If the reverse were true, we should focus only on sector allocation and stop investing in individual stocks. If both components were negative, we should just buy an index fund, which is generally good advice for most people.